Hello adventurers and welcome back to my channel. Today we're having a New Mexico adventure where we left out of our campsite this morning and have been driving toward something that I have been wanting to go to for quite some time. Now we're not that far away, so despite the fact that we are driving directly toward the mountain that seems to have snow and that makes me really nervous, I think that we will turn before we get there. I don't know though, so let's keep going. Stop off and get some gas. We're almost there though. We're about 20 minutes away, but I did not know what kind of gas stations were kind of between here and there, and we are turning toward the mountain. Again, I think we're gonna miss the snow, but just in case, I'm not trying to play with that. Now, I don't know if you have watched my far back videos or not, but there was actually a time where I was driving through New Mexico where I got stuck at this cute little hotel for like 3 days because of a snowstorm. So we're not trying to repeat that again, crossing our fingers that this place is nowhere near that. Okay, adventurers, we have made it, and we didn't end up going through the snow, which is a big, huge positive. However, it is a little chilly today, so we're about to go inside this building, and I think you'll see why very soon. You know how I like my stories, and this ties to several of the places that we've been before. I can't wait. It's only $2 for adults, so let's go. Guys, we finally made it to the Smokey Bear historic site. Now, I've been wanting to come here for quite some time, but I've never managed to make it physically here. I've always cut off in a different direction because of other things that I was doing. But we're finally here, and because of that, we're going to see some really cool stuff. Now, you probably have heard of Smokey Bear, or Smokey the Bear, as many people call him. You've probably heard of him, but you probably also think that he's a fictitious character. But in fact, he is not. He was a real-life bear, and he was from New Mexico. That's right, New Mexico. So we're going to go through the history of Smokey Bear and find out why this place exists and why you need to come here. As soon as you walk in, you find all of the cool history about Smokey Bear. And how could you not think this guy right here was just adorable? Oh my goodness, such a cute little guy. But did you know that this little guy actually came to be a representative for state forestry as well as national forestry because of a horrible incident that happened? Now, of course, we're going to talk about this a little bit more as we kind of move forward, but as you walk into this hall, you get to see all of these different images of the actual bear and some of the things that you might associate with the bear that we have more popularized and seen. For example, here is an original poster, and as you kind of look around the halls here, up high, you see some of those actual posters, which is really, really neat. But this is just the beginning. We have a lot to explore. And then at the very end of this, I have something very, very special for you. So let's go. Now down here we see a few images of the actual Smokey Bear, and he is on a plane. And as we kind of look around, you'll notice that Smokey is in a little tiny harness. And it says here that the harness was worn by Smokey Bear as a cub whenever he, in 1950, flew to Washington, D.C. Now, the original Smokey Bear was originally discovered when there was a horrific fire in the area. And you can see here that the entire side of the mountain was decimated. In the midst of this, one tiny little bear emerged with singed paws, looking very sad. And a ranger found him. This tiny little bear looked like this. And he was very, very small and likely lost everything in this fire. The ranger went on to help him recover from his wounds, and as a result, he became a symbol of fire prevention. He lived out his long years at the National Zoo, which we've actually visited in Washington, D.C. Now, the ranger that rescued him's name was Ray Bell, and you can see in several of the different photos Ray Bell is popping up here and there. But what made this particular bear so special? What made him a national symbol? These are all questions that we're going to be answering here in the gallery, so let's move on a little bit further. Now, there is also a video that pops up every 15 minutes, and it is actually just started, so I'm going to pop in there first.
Conditions, producing raging wildfires and burned homes. So preventing careless fires is essential, just like Smokey told us.
Super cool, guys. I just found out that the war effort is what started all of the prevention efforts for the forest. That's really, really cool. And there was a cartoon Smokey kind of before there was the actual Smokey. He didn't come into play for another like 6 years after that cartoon character was developed, but he embodied it and gave it a personified version. The video, guys, the video, they never disappoint with the video. I just learned that the original Smokey, of course, again, was a cartoon character that became the actual bear. But because people could physically visit the bear, he became like this national symbol of pride and fire prevention and really touched people young and old, which was awesome. So definitely watch the video. You'll learn a lot. I did a little pre-reading before I came here because I really wanted to be here and I wanted to know as much as I could. But this video is awesome. Now, coming in and out of this particular area that you can watch the video, you see all these really cool things. They have records that they used to use and paintings, really beautiful artwork from the kiddos, and more and more and more. There is even a Smokey Bear song, or Smokey the Bear song, that you can pick up at the door to take home with you, but they have a framed version right here. Now, as we go forward, we can see the history of Smokey Bear exhibits, and then we'll be able to go outside in a few moments and go to the Smokeys' grave. That's right, the actual Smokey Bear is buried on the property, and we can go and visit. Now, this gallery is not a huge gallery, so you could easily go through this and see all of the materials, but it is small but mighty. There's a lot of really great things in here. Like, as soon as we come in, there's this mailbox. What is this? Well, this is in fact a happy 40th birthday mailbox right here, and it has a painting of Smokey Bear, the adult version, with a big cake, and instead of having candles that are traditional, he has little trees that have been blown out because only you can prevent forest fires. As we talked about, whenever we were in the gallery, the theater a while ago, it first started out as a cartoon character, but the efforts to start out the fire prevention message started during the war. It was one of the many things that they did in order for people to get more involved. In fact, after the inception of the Forest Service in 1905, like this says right here, they started different kinds of campaigns, really trying to get to people. You can see in this photo that this is FDR right here, and this was in 1939. They were making posters that were trying to hold people accountable for their actions, and you can see the poster right there. But a larger version of that is right here on this particular panel. Of course, during wartime, things changed a little bit, and the ads look a little bit different than they initially might have started out. There's a little bit of a glare, but you can probably see on here, this is like a manufacturing shop during World War II, and a few of the different kinds of photos that you might have seen, in addition to this poster, which was how to prevent forest fires, and it has some little bullet points on the bottom here that would help you be able to be responsible with your fire. Now, the reason that they really stepped up this effort during wartime was because they considered the timber that we had in this area to be a commodity, almost as valuable, if not as valuable, as the ammunition that they were physically using. So they really wanted to target people to show them it was their civic responsibility and duty to protect these areas at all costs, like literally. So this is what this section's about. Now, as we move forth, though, you might notice some of the pre-Smokey posters before they figured out that Smokey Bear was going to be the official advocate for forest fire prevention. We had a few other options. For example, did you know that at one point in time, Walt Disney's Bambi was actually used? And while the message stays the same, some of these other posters were also something that might have been used at one point. Now, the first actual Smokey Bear posters came out in 1944, and they commissioned an artist that was typically known for painting animals and animal landscapes to create something that would become the face of the Forest Service, and he created Smokey. Now, Smokey was an adult bear, but had a lot of different kinds of facial expressions that he would use in various posters, and the artwork that was provided initially is pretty true to form to what we see in the modern day images even still. To increase the predominance of the bear and also to have more appeal and strength, they added the Smokey hat, which is based on a actual ranger's hat. And they decided to go ahead and put him in clothes, so they put him in these denim dungarees. But at this point, the bear was just a bear. He needed a name, and they actually sought out another real person in order to draw inspiration. And this was a very important person within the fire industry. It was actually an assistant chief in New York City. His name was Smokey Joe Martin, and he became the official name of Smokey Bear. Now, while you're visiting, there are two of these little cones of silence. I like to call them that after Get Smart. But you can actually step into the zones that these are placed in, here and over there, and you'll hear the television version of Smokey and the radio version of Smokey. So that's kind of cool. Did you know that celebrities such as Roy Rogers, Bob Hope, William Boyd, Ray Charles, David Copperfield, Jim Nabors, Dick Van Dyke, Zsa Zsa Gabor, Carol Burnett, and a handful of others have actually been a part of the promoting of the positivity and messaging of Smokey Bear? But long before all of those, in 1947, he actually made his radio debut. And it's kind of funny how they created his voice. They created his voice by actually putting a trash can over someone's head, and that's what made it have that very distinct sound, which I think is kind of neat. But you can come here and actually learn a little bit more about that Smokey had his own radio show and everything, and that's kind of cool. Now, as Smokey became more and more popular, he was given his own zip code, and you can actually still utilize this. You can write to Smokey for the Junior Rangers Forest Kit at Smokey Bear headquarters in Washington, D.C., and the zip code there is 20252. And something else pretty fascinating is, did you know that they actually had and still celebrate the Golden Smokies? In fact, the first Golden Smoky was actually given to the man who brought Smokey to the masses, his daughter. And I think that that's pretty cool. She was given this by the president, so that's a huge honor. Now, if you're like me, you probably have a community Smokey Bear that comes to schools and does fire prevention talks. But did you know that the first appearance of a Smokey Bear was actually in 1952? It says it right here that Smokey actually appeared in the Macy's parade. And as you can see here, here's a very different Smokey than the original. This was in 1966. He was a featured 58-foot balloon. He ended up being 320 pounds. But that's not the only balloon. There's also the official Smokey Bear balloon in 1993, and that one was more of a hot air balloon, where it was just like his face. Now, I personally, for those of you who do not know, was a school mascot. So I know that wearing a suit can get very hot. However, they have people around the country who do that and don that honor of being able to do that and share the message with the kids. I love that. I think it's just such a cool thing. And it keeps the spirit of Smokey truly not only alive, but in a 3D form that kids can relate to, and that is really cool. Speaking of which, it says here that in 1968 they conducted a survey. 98% of all school-age children were familiar with Smokey. 94% of adults were also familiar. I think that is just super cool, and it's because of the impact of Smokey through cartoons and television and even movies that this became such a popular thing. The Forest Service has actually said that this campaign itself has become such a driving force behind what the work that they do is that it has helped cut down a lot on man-made forest fires. And so that's helping our environment by saving one tree at a time, definitely. Now, we still have a lot of things that are happening. For example, last year I know that we experienced horrific fires, some of which were man-made, just saying. So it makes us have to think about it to ourselves. What can I do to make sure that I'm not the cause? And I think that that's the best thing about Smokey, is he just tells you to question yourself. Only you can prevent forest fires, right? Now, the Smokey that went on to become the official Smokey actually was a North American black bear. Here we can find a little bit of information about it. It says that their peak breeding activity was between mid-June and mid-July. Normally there was only one litter, and it was produced every other year. The litter size was genuinely only one cub. However, they do sometimes have more than that. Also in this same display case, what the paw prints might look like, and also how this particular bear might compare to a grizzly. Now, they can range in size, but males do average to be a little bit larger than females, obviously, like most animals. They can get up to 300 pounds. 300 on average. Females average about 175, so you're looking at a very beefy person or a very average person in comparison. Also, something else that you would want to know is that they can live up to 25 years. And that statistic leads us up to our final fact of this gallery. Smokey Bear passed away. When Smokey passed away, he was in Washington, D.C. This was in 1976, and this little bear, who had started out right here in New Mexico, had turned into this big bear right here. But they wanted to make sure they brought him back to where he started out. So they actually flew him to Albuquerque, and then they took a caravan to get him back to this very place that we are currently. And it's kind of sad, but at the same time, he lived this wonderful, full life, all because this one man actually rescued him, which is super cool. It just goes to show that one person can make a difference. And I think that's the branding in general, is you can make a difference. Only you can prevent the forest fires. Well, only this man could bring this icon truly to life, and that's really cool. When he passed away, it said that over 200 people attended the ceremony, and they wanted to celebrate his legacy of goodwill, and as the program's living symbol, they wanted to make sure he had the highest honors. This is them actually putting him into the ground, and this is his stone. And I think that this is just a really good conclusion for this little bear. Also, you can see here, this is the man again who actually saved him. Right there, he's getting to visit him. Now, just before we walk outside, there's actually this little Q&A board that has some of the most popular questions that have been asked and their answers. Now, you can find all of these answers throughout the gallery. So, like, for example, here, you can see when was the first Smokey Bear costume designed. And again, that was the 1952 Macy's Thanksgiving Parade. But there are a few other things that I didn't touch on, like, for example, here, this question says, why was Smokey buried at 3 a.m.? And it gives you the reason. It says that there were actually threats of Smokey's body being kidnapped. Now, I know you guys are just frothing to go outside and see that spot, that special spot. However, there is another gallery here that actually talks a little bit more about forest fires, and I just kind of want to go over a few things. We travel, so we like to be responsible, so let's talk about it. In this room, you can also see approximately where Smokey Bear was actually found, this little yellow dot right over here. And below that, there's this really cool little interactive thing that you can pick up the rocks and find out some of the facts. Like, for example, who was the ranger that found Smokey? Ray Bell. This is cool. This is a huge poster of a truckload of Civilian Conservation Corps volunteers actually heading off to fight a wildfire in 1934. You'll also find in here the benefits and history of fire suppression, and then also what healthy versus unhealthy forests look like. In this one, you can actually see Ray Bell, the original Ray Bell, actually doing an interview, and you can listen to his words. It also talks about what happens to the animals in the case of a fire. Are they able to be safe? Are they engulfed by it? And there are some actually good things in here. It says that the birds will fly away until the event has passed. The burrowing animals will go as deep underground as they possibly can. It says here that wild animals that are actually dealing with fires actually do very well. In fact, it goes on to say that most animals do outrun fire, and some actually seek refuge in water also. So if you're ever out and about and you see just a herd flying in your direction, you know something is wrong, and you need to leave too. Also in this gallery, along this wall, you'll find these small things like this, and they answer some more of the big questions. Did you know, for example, that a fire, if it happens while winds are blowing, can travel up to 300 miles within 1 hour? It also differentiates 3 major types of fires: ground fires, surface fires, and crown fires, and says, in fact, that the crown fires are the most dangerous. And the reason they are the most dangerous is because they are super difficult to control. They occur whenever there's a lot of shrubs and small trees, and they end up forming like a ladder which moves upwards. Now, what are the leading causes for wildfires? This you will find fascinating. There's about 50,000 around the world in any given year that happen as the result of lightning. Wow. But still, 9 out of every 10 are created by people like us. Now, as we come into the firefighting section, we learn about who the firefighters are, what the different kinds of firefighters are, and what you might expect of those. For example, you have people on the ground who are obviously trying to put the fires out in person, but you also have these helicopters that can go over and dump on top of the fires, which I've seen in some really bad instances. The direct attack, or the hands-on approach, is actually more effective when fighting smaller or short-lasting fires. However, the indirect attack is usually used on those faster and more intense fires. So in other words, if you see a helicopter flying over and dumping water, it's bad. It's very, very, very bad. It's not a small, they're just trying to contain it kind of bad. It's already progressed. Again, get out of there. The entire section talking about firefighters is super fascinating, and I want to leave that for you all to explore a little bit more whenever you come, because it's just very in-depth. Talks about training, tools, and then also the risks that are involved right here with being in the field trying to fight off these fires. Now, as we move into this last section, I found something that I truly love. You've seen me get excited about these before, but we're back. That's right, they have QR codes. All you have to do with these is hover your phone over them while in camera mode, and it will take you to something awesome. There are several of them in this gallery, and I definitely recommend. The museum already has some super cool stuff, but having that added layer just takes it up even more and more. Here we find something that actually applies to all of us who travel if you try to have a campfire. It is campfire safety. And there are some rules on here that I'm not sure that everyone realizes, so let's go through them. Now, we all know we should never go to bed until the fire is fully extinguished. Did you know that there's actually a criteria for how deep it needs to be, and then also what you surround it with? Yes, there is. It says here you should always dig a pit away from overhanging branches. You should circle that pit with rocks, and you should clear a 5-foot area minimum around the pit. But also, if you light it using a match, you want to make sure that match is fully cooled off before you do anything else with it. And if you have additional wood, stack it away from the fire and in the direction that is upwind as opposed to downwind. It's another Smokey. Yay! Okay, we're moving outside to go see this last part, and I'm very excited about this. Again, $2 for all of this information, and it just relates to so many of the places that we visit because this is where the fire prevention really comes into play that we see at national park after national park after national park. And this is why, because Smokey. And as you can see, this is a nice wide path, very accessible, so anyone can come, and I love that. I think sites like this are so important, and knowing that everyone can access them is awesome. Around the way, we'll see these little plaques that kind of tell us a little bit more about what we're looking at. They're divided up into different kinds of vegetation and what we can find living in those different areas of vegetation also. So for example, here we are in the desert life zone. So we're going to see all sorts of deserty kind of critters. There's a couple little, no. In fact, here you will see that all of these little critters could live here, and that there are more than 200,000 square miles of desert-like areas and desert life zones in North America alone. Within each area, it breaks it down even further so you can read about the individual plants that you'll find within this space. And just kind of as an added bonus, we're actually on the Billy the Kid National Scenic Byway, and you can find different historic signs. I've already seen a couple on my way here, but it shows you kind of the region that this is, and also that there is a Billy the Kid Visitor Center, and I know there's another one that is a bit more up here at Fort Sumner, but that one was actually closed when I came through today. And yes, guys, there is snow here. I just didn't have to drive through it because most of it has melted, but that is definitely snow. Which means that after we are finished here, I will be departing the area so that I do not get snowed on if they have kind of a system blow in, because no. Now, the building that we were just in a while ago was not the original building. The original building was actually this building right here, and they have since made some really big improvements and have that building, which is really nice on the inside, guys. I was very pleased by how it could be a small museum but have great quality, and it was really fun to go in there and see each display. They've put a lot of work into this for sure. This is what that began looking like. It was in 1960. This was just the original museum. And then they had a trail here also, but it wasn't near the trail that it is today. Now, of course, if you visit while it is springtime or early summer, it may look a little bit different out here. I am currently here in January, so the grasses are kind of a little bit more dormant, but still a beautiful way to get out, stretch your legs, and see something amazing for sure. We're getting very close to the actual burial site, but there's something else over here that I'm kind of curious about. Do you see this area over here? This looks like an area where they have gatherings, maybe ranger talks even. Very, very cool. Now this is the pond habitat area, obviously. Still a little frozen looking, but in this habitat you might be able to find during the pretty weather spadefoot toads, cattails, also western painted turtles, and raccoons tend to like this area also. There is a great area out here to take a selfie with Smokey, which is kind of cool. There's a little spot that you can stand, and then as you kind of look out this way, somebody can stand here and take your picture. In 2019, they actually added this memorial dedicated on May 4th, and they wanted to celebrate Smokey Bear's 75th anniversary, but they did it by honoring fallen firefighters, which I think is wonderful. It's on this plaque in front of the statue that you can find some of the names of the men and women who have served and lost their lives as a result of fighting fires. Again, this is just a wonderful place to come and see this. But we have finally arrived at the final resting place of the official Smokey Bear. This is where you will find the final resting place of the official Smokey Bear. He was born in this area and rescued in 1950, and then went on to live 26 long, peaceful years at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. It wasn't until 25 years after his passing that they officially replaced him by an additional orphaned black bear. Now, originally they did want to bury Smokey in a similar place to where he had officially come from in the mountains, but they were afraid because of the access to that area that people would go up there and vandalize it, and they wanted to protect and honor his legacy by doing it here in the community that's just a bit away from that actual place. And I'm glad that they did. They have nice big walls around here to protect it, a good security system, and on top of that they have the wonderful museum that they're able to do because it is inside this community. So it's absolutely a perfect ending to the Smokey Bear chapter, and I am so happy we came out here. Okay, adventurers, I'm leaving with a bag of fun. They were so wonderful there. I told the woman who was working at the front counter that my mom is a teacher, and she actually sent me home with some things for the kiddos at my mom's school. They do have a really excellent junior ranger program here. I highly suggest you checking it out if you have kids, and get a bag of your own. You will love it. If you have enjoyed coming with me today, make sure that you hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and check out all of my other content on this crazy wild ride that we call life. Remember, we're not here for a long time, but we're here for a good time. And until next time, guys, bye!